To add flaps? No, it doesn't. So it's a good question because you think, well, if the climb is steep, then wouldn't it be steep as well? Uh, so let's use physics since you're an engineer. So you've got lift, you've got weight, you've got thrust, and you've got drag. So let's change this so that we're in a climb. We're gonna be let's make an assumption that the thrust line is the same direction that we're traveling. It's slightly different, as you know, but this is small. Yeah, so we're flying in this direction. Yeah, so we're flying in this direction. So so lift, where's lift gonna be acting? It's gonna be acting this way. Yeah, assuming that we're flying the direction that we're pointing, perpendicular to the direction of travel, right? Because lift is always in the plane of the wing, perpendicular to the wings, more or less, right, to the angle of attack. So let's have a look at this. If you have constant thrust, right? So this doesn't change because we're at full power. And you increase and you add flaps, right? So we're going to add flaps, increase the drag. And then what else are we going to add? We're going to add lift because we've got that extra lift. What's the for these two? What's the final vector? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it'll be somewhere like that, right? God damn it! I really suck today at this. It'll be somewhere like that, won't it? So the sum of these two will be like that, right? So if this increases, what's going to happen to that? It's going to increase. So what? So the sum force going that way is going to reduce. But it is a good question. The other thing as well is using flaps. There's a larger difference between the direction that you're pointing and the direction that you're actually traveling, which we can't do in this diagram because there's more drag, right? So we need to overcome that drag. But it is a good question. I'll put this in for later. Yeah, so adding flaps reduces ground roll, but decreases rate of climb. So as I said, because I haven't animated these yet, because I didn't realize I hadn't, we're gonna end up. You're gonna have all the answers, but first of all, turning. It's not. It's not. We're not gonna make it too tough. We're gonna be flying certain level. We're going to do our lookout. We know how to do lookouts now, right? Because we've done certain level flights. We do our Frida, and then we're going to practice some turns. So to enter a turn, we do triple B, and to recover, we do triple B again. So bank, balance, back pressure. Balance for you, null means coordinated, right? When your instructor asks when you go do your real world flying, because differences between the US and the UK. So we're going to use 30 degrees bank angle. It's very typical for exams, right? You're going to be using 30 degrees bank angle. You need to be able to demonstrate that you can fly level 30 degrees bank angle for a normal turn. So we look out, eyes peeled outside. So in fact, if I go back to that screen, we're looking outside. We bank to what we believe is going to be roughly 30 degrees. And we turn. What we visually think is 30 degrees. We're not looking at here. We're looking at the horizon. Right? We're looking at the horizon. We adjust to what we think is going to give us level flight. And then we check our instruments. So first you bank. Then you add back pressure. Why do you add back pressure? So when you roll, you're absolutely right. This wing, the upgoing wing, will have more drag than that one. But once you bring the ailerons back to neutral, they will both create the same amount of lift. So how does it create more drag? So let's try and think about this. So remember the forces? We had lift and we had weight, right? No, we're not. Absolutely correct, yeah. So I'm going to... Well, let's put it this way. When you're flying level, the lift is acting in direct opposition to gravity, right? But now when we bank, what's going to happen to that lift? It's going to rotate. Yeah. So now you have two components of lift. One which is going to aid us in the turn, and one which is going to keep us up. But if we maintain the same amount of lift than when we were in level flight, it's gonna be less overall than gravity, because gravity is always downwards. But the upwards component of lift is going to reduce because it's off axis, like you just said. So in order to make it the same as that, we're going to have to increase that. How do we increase that? How do we increase the lift vector? Gross corrections. How do you increase? Yeah, we'll pull up, which is the second B, right? Balance. Back pressure. Yeah, sorry, the third one. Back pressure. So this is what happens when we create more lift? We create more what? Drag. Yeah, absolutely. Remember, one of the effects of creating lift is creating drag. That's why we get inverse yaw when we roll. All right, because the upwards going wing, which has more lift, also has more drag as a result of the additional lift. So because we're creating more lift, we're going to create more drag. So we're going to start sinking. So we're going to have to pull back, and we're going to create more drag. So that's why we are less aerodynamic, in your words, because we're creating more lift. Balance. In the new simulator, it's virtually non-existent, the inverse yaw, as we saw in effective flight controls. So you and me, Null, we're going to have a great time, because that's going to stay right smack in the middle. Martian, however, who's going to have a more realistic experience, as you roll, Martian, you're going to have what? That inverse yaw, right? So as you roll to the left, for example, the aircraft nose is going to want to yaw to the right. Yeah, and as you roll to the right, the aircraft is going to want to yaw to the left. So as you roll to the left, that ball, right? So if you've got the tube, I really suck at picking the correct tools. Right, if you got that lovely tube, I am an artist. So as you roll to the left, so as you're rolling, what's going to happen? The aircraft is going to want to inverse yaw. So it's going to go that way. Sorry, that way, right? Because it'll turn in the direction of the slipstream. So the slipstream will be coming from the left. So the ball's going to go to the left. Airflow moves from in front of us to the left. That ball's going to go here. So what are you going to do to compensate? Rudder, yeah. So you step, of course, because you inverse it in squadrons, don't you? So you're going to step on the ball, right? So you're going to use the left rudder. So as you turn to the left, you use left rudder to center it again. Yeah, exactly. So in this case, it would look something like this. So from a top-down view, if you're here, then that air would be coming from that direction, right? And then that would be indicated like that. We have entered our turn. We've made sure that we're balanced, and we've put the back pressure. Okay, congratulations, we have entered a turn. Now, in order to fulfill the level requirement and maintaining 30 degrees bank, we need to lie. You're going to need to lie for me. And lie not L-I-E, but lie A-I. Right? And I like to say it's the triangle, where you're going back and forth. So I say lookout, attitude, instrument, but it's more lookout, attitude, lookout, instruments, lookout, attitude, lookout, instruments. Okay? So that's why you got the triangle. So you're always going back and forth. And so here's how it goes. Lookout, my attitude's correct. I'm looking outside. Bank angle's correct, looking outside. Altitude's correct, looking outside. Heading is correct, looking outside. Attitude's correct, looking outside. Heading's bank angle's correct, looking outside. Altitude's correct, looking outside. Heading. Now, what instrument have I missed out that I should probably also be checking? Airspeed, yeah, we're going to want to check the airspeed. We want to check the airspeed. As long as we're in cruise, it should be alright. And again, if you have the correct attitude, once you've set the power, airspeed, all of these will be constant, will be roughly the same. So if you've set this correctly, you can look outside and not look at your instruments, and you can fly the turn. And in fact, that is one exercise we can do later on if we want to, where you set the view where you're not looking at the instruments. You enter the turn just on altitude, and then when you come back and you look at your instruments, you've barely made a difference. You might have gone off by like 50 to 100 feet or something, but because you've memorized that sight picture, it's fine. Okay, so it's hard. It sounds harder than it is because I'm saying out loud, but these are micro checks, right? You're just checking over and over again, and with practice, you'll be quicker at it. So we're here to practice. We're not here to nail it perfectly today. Okay. We've entered our turn. We've been checking, and we're approaching the heading that we want to turn into. So initially, what I want you to do is do 10 for 10. So that means for every 10 degrees of bank angle, for 10 degrees to go to your heading. So if your heading's 30 degrees away, you're still at 30-degree bank angle. But once it's at 20 degrees, I want it to be at 20-degree bank angle. 10 degrees, 10-degree bank angle. 5 degrees, 5-degree bank angle. It's a rule of thumb to start with. And what you'll find is that you're going to be coming out of the turn a bit quicker, and then as you finish, you're going to slow down because that rate of turn is removed. Okay? So, bank, wings level, balance, right? We are now rolling in the opposite direction. So you're going to ease on the rudder. You're probably not going to need to use opposite rudder because of the freeze ailerons that we have. If you guys remember watching that video, the freeze ailerons, they go into the wind stream, which adds drag, which helps reduce the inverse yaw. It's less noticeable when you're coming out of a turn as opposed to entering a turn. We're going to release that back, right? We're going to release that back pressure. Yeah, remember that throughout that turn, we've been pulling a bit on the stick, right? So if you don't release that back pressure, when you come out of it, you're going to be in a climbing attitude, and you're gonna lose that altitude. So it happens a lot. I've had students where they enter the turn, they do a beautiful triple B, they do a beautiful lie. They're lying all over the place. I can't, it's fantastic. And then they come out of the turn, they bank perfect wings level, the ball smack in the middle, but they forget to remove that back pressure, and then they climb 200 feet. Right, because they forgot to release that back pressure. It happens a lot. It's probably going to happen to you guys today. It's not the end of the world. We're going to try to be aware of it. That's it. That's why we practice. Okay? The first thing we're going to do, we're going to try and turn... Sorry, try is the wrong word. We're going to turn around 360 degrees both ways. Once each. Just to get a feel for the turn done this way. And then once we feel confident with those turns, we're going to go ahead and practice turning to specific headings. I'm going to call out specific headings for you, and we're going to go ahead and turn in those directions. So I'll demonstrate the turns a couple of times, and then we'll go ahead and turn on those. If we have time, we'll do the part 2 of turning, which is just climbing and descending turns. We're not going to do this in the sim because of time-wise, but it's the same sort of stuff, right? You're climbing, you're turning, you're lying. The difference is power. We add full power, we reduce power. Okay. And then we maintain those speeds, and you still lie. Let's meet at Lima Foxtrot Papa Zulu, which is LFPZ. This is where I learned I did my PPL. I started in 2007, so Saint-Cyr l'École, yeah, that's the one. It's right next to the Versailles Castle. Okay, so I'm going to commence a turn. Can anybody remind me, before I do that, Frida? What are the items in Frida?
That
Yeah, absolutely. Fuel. So I'm going to check my fuel. I've got roughly equal, and it's only single tank in the 152, so that's all we need to check. Well, it's two tanks, but they're interconnected. Okay. Radios, I'm not talking to anyone. It's flight sim, I don't care. Engines, in the green, pull the carb, check I got the power loss. I'm going to leave it for a little bit. Direction, I'm flying west. I'll try and maintain west as best as I can. And of course, try and maintain altitude since we lost that power. Oh, nice thermal there. Add some power and climb. See that those thermals making me drop in altitude? It's quite crazy how realistic that is. Carb back in. And altitude. I've just lost 150 feet. So climb back up, nice and gently. I'll maintain 1900 just to get the exercise going.
Do you use throttle or pitch to boost that altitude back?
A little bit of both. It's quite a large correction, so I'm using a little bit of both. If it was very small, I'd just use throttle. Okay, so I've done my Frida. Thank you very much, Null. So I want you to start my turn. So first things first, I'm doing a lookout. This looks exactly like the real thing. I know exactly where I am. It's crazy. Climbing a little bit to 2000. Cool, so I've done my lookout. Martian, how am I going to start my turn?
You're gonna bank.
Yep.
And you're gonna check your balance.
Yep.
And then keep getting higher back.
Back pressure, yeah, that's it. So, I'm going to start with a turn to the left because I suck at left turns. So, and I'm a little high on power, so I'm going to reduce power. And I've done my lookout, so especially to the left. And here it goes. Bank, smidge of rudder, back pressure. And I think this is roughly 30 degrees. So now I'm going to lie. Lookout, looking outside. Attitude, looks about 30 degrees. Instruments, 2000, outside. 25 degrees, make it a little steeper, outside. Back to 30 degrees. There you go. Now that's 30 degrees. Airspeed, we're good. We're starting to descend. Back up a bit. Lookout. Outside. Attitude. Pitch up. Maintain that picture. Instruments 30 degrees. Outside. Back in. Altitude. I lost a little bit. Maintain. Outside. Turn direction's looking good. Outside, attitude's looking good. Instruments, I'm getting close to west. Preparing that 30 degrees turn. 30. 20. 10. 5. And release the back pressure. Okay? With triple B. So, it's really hard to talk through this while doing it. But that's essentially what I have to do. So the idea is, when I'm giving you lie, lookout, attitude, instruments, it's just something for you to refer to. The idea is that you're active in that scan. Your eyes are outside most of the time, but your eyes are flicking in, checking the instruments for a split second. I really want your eyes outside. I want you to maintain the attitude. You maintain the attitude, you're going to maintain the level, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you as best as I can. I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot as I do this, but I'll try again. So here I am west, roughly 2,000 feet. Here goes. I'm going to turn, back pressure, roughly 30 degrees, and I'm just going to maintain that turn. And I'm not looking at instruments, I'm just maintaining the attitude. Look inside. Looking good. 30 degrees. Roughly level. Back in. I'm going to pretend I can't see this. Maintain 30 degrees. Pretend I can't see the bank angle either. I'm just looking outside. My eyes are around here right now. And I'm looking outside for other aircraft, even if I know they're not there. Back in. All good. Attitude, 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 and I'm gonna level off. I think I overshot it a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, I oversoldered a smidge. So back in.
So you were just eyeballing that based off terrain.
Yeah,
Or
I was eyeballing it based off of my attitude, and also if I flight freeze it, I had this marker here.
I can't see your mouse.
So, oh shit. Do you see the white thing?
Yeah.
I was looking at the white thing as my indicator of direction. So when you do these 360 turns, pick a point out in the distance, because I want you to look for it, because then you know you're getting close to the end of your 360 turn. Questions?
Yeah, this is gonna be a lot to execute.
Yeah. The idea here is for you to practice. It's not for you to nail it. If you nail it, happy days. If not, it's alright. You're just being introduced to the concept so you can practice it, right? Every flight, you're going to be doing this. Every flight, you're flying certain level. You're doing Frida, you're doing dabble, you're climbing, you're descending. Here, we're just introducing the concept so that you can keep practicing it as we fly. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing, and then I need a volunteer. You might have auto rudder on, which is fine. So these lessons, I'm introducing you to these concepts, and we're practicing these physical skills. But the reality is, flight sim is not great for teaching you that. I really want you to basically get the feeling of how the aircraft behaves and the understanding of the theory, right? And then once you've got that done, you can then you can apply that if you ever decide to do real life training. And then when you do real life training and you sit in an aircraft with an instructor, they will then teach you how to physically control the aircraft, because it's only by sitting in an aircraft that you can actually learn how to do it properly. But if you have all this knowledge ahead of time, if you understand the drawbacks, the limitations of Flight Simulator, when you jump into an aircraft, you'll be in a much better position than most flight simmers. Trust me, I have trained a lot of flight simmers in an aircraft. Every instructor in the world can tell when someone's a simmer straight away, right off the bat. Okay, so if we can remove those bad flight simming habits now, when you go into the aircraft, and they'll think you're just a natural, which is awesome for you. Right. So Martian, when you're ready, can you please share your monitor?